everybody. Welcome to the Geex Book Club this month. It is August, and my co host Bonnie Burton is here. Hi, Bonnie.
The end. No, I'm kidding. I hope you like this book. I like this book a lot, but it's funny because like I was just kind of like trolling around Goodreads to see what people are thinking because the second book is already out.
I saw
Um,
that. I also saw a pre order for the third book in the series.
yes, it's
And
a
the,
trilogy.
the book for the audience at home listening,
Oh
Finlay
yeah,
Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano.
yeah.
That is the book.
Who,
It's a
who is
mystery.
who has already retweeted our tweets today?
Ah,
She's a really cool author. You should all follow her on social, on Twitter and such. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books I've read in a long time. Because I read so many dark, brutal, like mind twisty horror novels and mystery murder novels that
hmm
I needed something to kind of cleanse the palate. You know, like something that kind of makes me feel happy and laugh as opposed to go, ooh, ugh.
yeah, I get
So,
it. I get it. I mean, I will be honest with you. I really enjoyed it, and for the exact same reason
yeah,
that you did, because it was, it was just enjoyable, it was very light, it was like chick lit, you
yeah.
know, but in a good way.
Well,
It was witty, and I enjoyed it. It's definitely a different brand of book than we've done for the last almost year. Guys, we're coming up on our year anniversary of this book club. Can you believe it?
wow. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize time flies time's subjective since the plague hit. So like
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like COVID's been around for 3 years, and sometimes it feels 30 years, 300 years.
Yeah.
So I miss things all the time as far as anniversaries. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm
No,
very
no.
for our book club. We have fun. We read a lot of cool books.
I know, and I enjoy my Discord. I have a couple of people in Discord who do have a little Felicia anniversary tracker, and they are the ones who remind me, "Hey, 7 years ago your book came out," or 3 years ago you did this, and I'm like, "Thank you for actually looking at my life in a way that I should look at." But I don't even remember. You're right. I remember birthdays, and that's it.
Yeah, I have a book that I wrote that was a anti-bullying book for teen girls, and I keep meaning to talk to my agent about possibly doing a sequel because it was published in 2009. So like the cyberbullying section, which even just calling it cyberbullying is
Yeah, I
outdated.
know. I know.
Didn't even it was like such a tiny section. I had to fight my publisher to put that in there. And now I'm just like, yeah, I should probably just do a whole book on it. 'Cause
Yeah.
sadly, you know, with the onset of deep fakes and video editing so easy to do and
I mean, there's
Snapchat.
a whole nother generation that's gonna be suffering because of this technology, but we're not quite there yet. But for sure, by the
Yeah.
time my daughter is 15, deep fakes will be like everywhere, and people will be abusing them, and it's gonna be just another bag of worms to
It's just another
uncover. And
thing. Yeah,
yep,
it's just another thing. I'm just glad that the oldest footage of me ever filmed that's on YouTube is when I was in my Winona Ryder stage of trying to look like her, and I was like a VJ at a Denver music video late night show called Teletoons. And
mhm. What?
yeah, and I didn't put this on YouTube. My co-host put it on YouTube. So if you look it up on YouTube, like my name in Teletoons, you'll see it. And it's poorly, I think she videotaped it from her phone off the TV that was off of VHS
Oh,
that's
wow.
slightly corrupted. So it even looks like almost like it's vintage,
Y
like early 90s. Like it's
Everybody's
90s.
gonna be looking this up right now, you know that, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
people furiously going to YouTube thinking,
yeah,
what does Bonnie look like when she
yeah.
looked kinda like Winona Ryder? Because
Well,
I
yeah.
can see that for sure.
Yeah, it was my I would call it my office goth stage where I was like in college and I was still goth, but I wasn't doing full Wednesday Addams. It was more like, you know, Winona Ryder and Reality Bites. That's the look I was going
Um,
for.
that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite too. But I think I looked more like her friend than her because I still had the Betty Page hair, but I did have her hair for a while.
You look more like Janine Garofalo?
Yeah, because which is funny because Janine, I always say looked more like me because the only time she ever had bangs was in that movie. All the other times it was
Oh.
what she usually, and then she went blonde and you know whatever. But Yeah, so I need to rewatch Reality Bites because I forgot how moody and emo Ethan Hawke is in that movie. I forgot
Yeah,
how,
and Ben Stiller is in it, and he
which is
actually
weird.
directed the movie as well. I don't know why this is turning into a movie
Oh yeah,
podcast, but
sorry. Yeah, that
I
you
actually watched that movie for research about 5 years ago because I was pitching, a show about kinda geek girls, and I wanted to have that vibe. I was gonna direct. I
yeah.
sold it twice, and then every time I sold it, the studio or the company went under, and so I never ended up getting made,
I
but,
mean, that's a series
ah,
right there. You should just do a series about you trying to pitch, and every time you pitch, the company went under.
it's almost like I was cursed in a like, "If you buy my show, you will shutter in a year."
Yeah, that's what I was worried about in the late '90s when I kept joining tech companies, and as soon as I joined, they went under. And I
Yeah.
was starting to wonder if I should like advertise myself on Craigslist as a company killer in case anyone wanted to actually kill a company, just hire me and the
Rocket
company.
Soup in the chat says maybe HBO Max will be interested.
Oh, burn. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I mean, as a former Discovery Channel employee who I worked at Rev 3 in San Francisco, which was kind
Oh,
of like
yeah, Rev 3 with
controversial.
Veronica.
Veronica worked there. Yeah, she was one of the what we call the talent, on air talent. And I was like the behind the scenes person, though they kept dragging me onto the camera. So I'm in a lot of Rev 3 videos. That's
I
another
remember
YouTube
seeing
search.
you.
Yeah, you can do another YouTube search. Shirley Jean Anders and Annalisa had a show for IO9 when they did remember IO9.com? They
Yeah,
did a show for Rev 3 for us, and I was always on it. Like they would, and they interviewed us for a Vaginal Fantasy Romance Book Club, I think.
they're the best. They're the best. So everybody deep
Anyway.
diving on YouTube about Bonnie. Don't
Yeah.
don't sh
No,
right
don't. No,
now.
don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so this book, Finlay Donovan's killing it. Do you want me to read the synopsis real quick so
Yeah,
people
that'd
that
be really good for people. Yeah, absolutely. For anybody who is not familiar with the book and are listening on just for fun, here's the blurb.
Okay, here's the blurb, which is great because at the very top of the back of the book, and I bought the physical book. I'm still one of those people.
Mhm.
It says, "It's murder being a hit mom. Finlay Donovan is killing it, except she's really not. As a stressed out single mom of two and a struggling novelist, Finlay finds her life in chaos. When Finlay is overheard discussing the plot of her new suspense novel with her agent over lunch, she is mistaken for a contract killer and inadvertently accepts an offer to dispose of a problem husband. Finlay soon discovers that crime in real life is a lot more difficult than its fictional counterpart as she becomes tangled in a murder investigation. Fast-paced, deliciously witty, wholeheartedly authentic in depicting the frustrations and triumphs of motherhood. I would also say the frustrations and triumphs of being a writer.
Mhm.
Finlay Donovan is killing it is the first in a new brilliant series from the award-winning author Elle Cosimano. And like we said, this is part of a trilogy. So there's two more books. Sequel's already out. I think if you buy the Kindle of this, it includes the first chapter of the second book. I'm pretty sure. And then also, this is being shopped around as a TV show.
It makes sense that it would be a TV show because
Yeah, it reads
okay,
like one.
yeah, it does, and like I said, I enjoyed it because it was so light and breezy because I've been
Yeah,
reading a lot of very dense material lately,
yeah.
and it reminded me of books like 10 years ago that I really enjoyed, and then that kind of style went out of fashion, and I'm kinda hoping this style comes back in because they're kinda like Janet Ivanovich. Did you ever read
Oh,
those?
yeah, I love
Like
those books. I have
yeah,
all of them. Yeah, I
it
have
feels
all of
like
them.
a newer, fresher version of that.
Yeah,
I,
and I would say if you like this book, go and read Good Girl's Guide to Murder book series. It's very similar in that tone.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love it because I used to read, like, romance, as you know,
Yeah,
from Visual Fantasy. I
yeah,
used to read a lot of romances and just kinda, like, as brain candy, and I don't
yeah.
know if I'm in there. I don't know if I'm in that zone anymore. It would be fun to try to do
When's
a
the last time
romance
you
and
read
just
when's the last time you read, like, a pure romance book?
probably years at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
I
Alright,
know.
alright.
So this
I
was kind of
mean,
adjacent, you know? I mean,
well, there's a love triangle in this book, so it's sort of love adjacent. It's not like it's not like a romance. It's more like a murder mystery comedy with some love.
with some romance, yeah. Now tell me, which dude were you rooting for?
Okay.
Julian or what's his name? Ned or
Julian's the lawyer, right?
Julian's the lawyer, and
Yeah.
then what's his name?
Nick.
Ned?
Nick,
Nick.
the
Yeah,
hotshot cop.
yeah,
I've dated both kinds,
yeah.
and as you know, as a bisexual, I've also dated a Vero in my life.
Oh,
Which
okay.
I would prefer. In this book, of all the people to date, it would be the nanny. It would be her live-in nanny, who is awesome. And I
Yeah.
like the friendship in this book, so I'm really glad that they did a super strong female friendship, which is not always the case in books like this. Sometimes it's more like the characters like her and her ex-husband's fiance, Teresa. It's more like that in some of these books, but I like that it wasn't catfight central. It was, like you had a strong female character in there. Like
Yeah.
basically and I've always said this, you always need I have a lot of acquaintances in my life and I have friends that I see maybe once a month. And then I have like online friends and book friends and writer friends and all that. But I would say you're successful in the friendship zone if you have at least one friend that will help you bury a body and not tell anyone where it is. And I'm
Now
that
I'm try
friend. I haven't done it yet, but I am that friend. I know how to bury a body and not get caught. But no one's
Yeah.
asked me yet. No one's asked me yet. So
No, I mean, I feel like I have 2 or 3 people who would do
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
definitely I mean, that is a testament, but to me, what I thought was really there were some really clever, like, twists here that I didn't see
Hmm.
coming about who did well, and also I didn't which guy were you rooting for?
Oh,
I
right. I was rooting for the lawyer just because he was nice, but I was kind of hoping Nick. So basically, for those of you that are just getting, oh, and by the way, spoilers. So if you don't want this book spoiled, I'm sorry, but we're gonna talk the shit out of it. Um, sorry for my French. I would say, oh, it's a tough one because the lawyer is probably who she should end up with, and he's the nice guy, right? But Nick is the one that the bad boy, not so great guy who gets you in danger all the time. That's
I
attractive.
know, and of course I like Nick, and I'm just like,
I
"What are you
know.
doing, Felicia? What are you doing?
Well, the
Stop it." But
lawyer
I was
can
like, "Why
be.
are you with Julian? He's so"
Yeah, but Julian can be a little boring too. I mean, that's the thing. You either go with safe or unsafe, right? So Julian, I feel like, is pretty safe, whereas Nick is not so safe. But that could be attractive to have chaos in your life. And boy, howdy, does she have chaos in her life? Like this
But
book
I
is.
don't like chaos in my life. I like the opposite. I guess in my fantasy, I need to go to the most unreliable, probably kind of a dick when you're not after the glowy months together. And so no way in reality would I go for a Nick, but I would definitely
Yeah,
go Julian. But and also I really liked in the book that she kind of at the end of the book weighs going between the two. And
yeah,
then she decides she really just wants to be with a guy who she could be honest with. And she basically goes and tells him everything that happened. And
yep.
then they do it. And then she's like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's the difference between, and this is a topic that comes up in the book itself. There's a difference between fantasy and reality. So like the
Yeah.
fantasy of a murder mystery, like a lot of us read a lot of murder mysteries. We watch a lot of murder mystery TV shows or movies. And of course, I'm a huge true crime fanatic. And I also work for a company called Hunt a Killer, where all I do all day is think up murder mysteries and how to get away with murder.
Hey, I got
Um,
that book. I got the book that you sent me.
Oh, good.
And
The book of codes and ciphers.
it's so fun.
Isn't it
Like,
cool?
I forgot that as a kid, I used to do all those, like, mind puzzles and everything, and just to
Yeah,
have this book there to do a bunch of puzzles in, it was very fun. So thank you for having them send it
yeah,
to me, and I highly recommend it just as, like, a fun side, like,
yeah,
"Hey, let's do this instead of being on our phone."
yeah. It's called the Detective's Puzzle Book: True Crime Inspired Ciphers, Codes, and Brain Games, and
Mhm.
it's published. I don't know who the actual publisher is, but Hunt a Killer. It's branded Hunt a Killer. Uh, Ulysses Press published it, and we have a Scholastic young adult series.
Mm.
Um, that's Hunt a Killer branded, so that's kind of cool. But here's the thing, like as we've been friends for years. I'm obsessed with like people who people who don't know what they're doing get caught, right? So,
Yeah.
and this happens in real life too. So if you watch a lot of true crime stuff, the only reason a lot of killers don't get caught is you have a lazy police force, or you have a police force that doesn't have a budget, to do proper
Mhm, mhm.
DNA or proper forensics, or it's a FBI police shared type of thing, and they won't talk to each other because it's a pissing contest, or what have you. And then the people that do get caught are the ones that just make these amazing mistakes, right? That
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, I don't know, have a dead body in your truck where you go pick up your kids. from
Yeah.
daycare to go bury the body. Throughout this whole book, it was like it's hilarious to read. But then I found myself, and this is how I know I enjoy a book. If I'm like yelling at it while I'm reading it, I think I said, "What are you doing?" so many times.
Wow.
And it wasn't that it was a bad book. It's just she makes these horrible decisions. And then I was
Yeah.
like, well, here's the thing. It's kind of like Jeopardy, right? When you watch Jeopardy, you have all the right answers. When you're on the game show, you forget your name, right? So it's kind of like that, where you think you would know how to get away with murder and how to bury a body and how to not get caught. But then
Yeah.
what if this actually happens? Like who would you call? Would you call a friend? Would you do it yourself? How would you get rid of the body? Would you even know where to dig? Like I would say Griffith Park is great because there's a lot of dead bodies there. In fact, they just found a dead body there 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Um,
really? Well, I mean, Lake Mead. So basically they're
yeah.
having a horrible drought in Lake Mead and they're finding like I
Oh,
think
they're finding
four dead bodies already. That's where the mafia just,
Oh, yeah.
used to dump
Oh,
bodies.
yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Our mutual friend friends Ann and Will are doing some major landscaping, and
Mhm.
they're doing a lot of digging. And I keep waiting for the call. Like I'm waiting for the call. Of, oh my god, we found a dead body. Like
So
it's
can I just share a story?
yeah.
And I don't know if Zach Whedon's Instagram is public, but if it is, go to his
Oh, he
Instagram and
did.
check his saved stories
Wait,
because
you're saying Zach Whedon, not Wheaton, right?
Zach Whedon, yeah,
Okay,
like
good. I was
Joss
like,
Whedon's
wait.
brother.
Oh
Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
so I guess Zach
Uh
and
huh.
his wife and his family bought a house, and he started digging in the backyard to kinda, like, do some landscaping, and he
Oh.
found a dead cat
Oh.
in a bag.
Okay.
Then he found another dead cat, and another dead cat,
Oh
and
no.
another one, and he literally Instagrammed the
No.
whole story of him finding, no shit, 34 dead cats in
Was
the
it a did
backyard.
he Okay, back up. Did he buy a house on top of a pet cemetery? Because
It
that
was
never
a
goes
ha it
good.
it was a cat hoarder b woman, sadly,
Oh.
and she was a
Okay.
hoarder, and
Oh.
she just put the cat in a bag when it died and buried it in the backyard.
I mean, points for her for at least burying it, because hoarders don't necessarily bury the pets
I
when they
mean, true, hoarders are usually like, "Let's just leave that body there," because I am definitely not in touch with reality. Yes, but I don't know if he has
yeah.
a public profile, you guys have to, because it's one of the funniest things. Because he started just so macabre
Oh
like, I'm
boy.
19, he played that song, "Na na 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 19." Like, he would just basically do a montage of all the dead cats.
Oh no. Oh
Um,
no.
so
Here's a pro tip for you. If you're digging in your backyard and you come across some bones and you're not sure if they're animal or human,
mhm,
lick the bone, and if it sticks to your tongue, it's human.
okay. Oh, okay, so it's Zach Whedon, which is Z-Dub-Dub, and it's one of his saved thing is Cat Chronicles. It's one of his stories, and I
Oh
just
my god.
challenge you guys to watch it because it is
Ugh.
truly one of the darkest, horriblest things
I
that
mean,
I have ever seen. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny because like people are always like, "Don't buy a house on a cemetery." It's like the poltergeist thing, like where don't buy a house on a Native American burial ground. But then, if you really think about it, every house in America is on top of a Native American burial
That's
ground because
true, that's true. I mean,
so
invariably, there's dead people everywhere,
there's dead
like,
people everywhere. Like, okay, here's my favorite story. In Denver, there's a park called Cheeseman Park. It's kind of like the gay cruising park now. But
mhm.
the famous story of it was it used to be a cemetery when Denver was like a
Oh,
frontier town or whatever. And they decided they wanted to make it a park, so they wanted to move. The city wanted to move all the bodies to a cemetery outside of town, and they went with the cheapest bidder. I think you know where this is going.
oh,
They went
no.
with the cheapest bidder, and the cheapest bidder moved all the gravestones, but not the bodies. So when they were building a fountain in this park, it was just body central, and they couldn't not have the park because it was already sanctioned to be a park.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so there's bodies. So now it's like a Halloween hangout. They do tours there and stuff.
Wait,
But
did they dig up the bodies?
nope, they're still there.
Oh god.
Yeah, because all
I
the
would not wanna
gravestones are
cruise
gone.
in that park, I'm so
Well, the
sorry.
gravestones are gone, so they don't even know what gravestone went with what body. So even if there's no records or anything, I think that were salvageable. So it's like, good luck finding Uncle Vinny. You don't know where he is. You could
Wow.
be digging up great aunt Mary instead and putting the wrong headstone. And ghosts do not like it when you put the wrong headstone over a dead body. So you don't want to do that. So,
I mean,
I
if ghosts
feel-
were real, that park is screwed.
but then again, I kind of think if you're a vengeful spirit, maybe you would, or maybe you would just like it to be. I would rather be buried under a cruising park. Like, I feel like that would be more fun to watch if I was a ghost than
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. I
like
mean,
a
that'd be the
deformed
place you'd wanna
cemetery.
haunt.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so this book is hilarious.
It's very
It's
funny, although I will say, Bonnie, I don't
uh-oh.
know if this author has babies, but
Okay, I was going to ask you about this because I'm not a mom, but you are. So the motherhood stuff in this book, because she's a single mom of 2 kids, a baby and a toddler, right?
yeah, a
Yeah.
baby
And
and like a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
okay. And how old is your daughter right now?
She is, she is, 5 years old.
Kindergarten?
I'm
Oh,
looking
okay.
up
So
the
around the
author to
same
see
age.
if she has kids, just
So
for the just for the hell of it.
So around the same age as I can't remember the eldest kid in this book. But I mean, so when I read books that have single moms that are frazzled, going through this character Finlay is going through a messy divorce.
Mhm.
Her ex-husband's an asshole. Her ex-husband cheated on her with their real estate agent, which is like, oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And now this real estate agent is his fiance, and his best friend is his divorce lawyer. And he basically is a dude that's got connections everywhere, and Finley's just kind of screwed because
He's kind of a dick. Yeah, and actually, I mean, it did feel like she actually had kids. Whether she has her own kids or she's an
yeah.
aunt or
So
whatever,
you would
like,
think it
it
was
felt
real.
very specific to being a mom. I just hated when she put duct tape on her kid's
I
forehead.
was
I was
gonna
like,
ask
"How is that
that.
getting off?
I was gonna ask that. Ah,
How is how is she gonna get that off? How
okay,
would you
so
get that off your head?"
this is the premise for those of you who haven't read it yet. At the very first chapter, I think in the very first 2 pages of the book,
Yes,
her daughter, who's a toddler age, decides to cut her own
4
hair.
years old, 4 years old.
4 years old, decides to cut her own hair and cuts it too close to the scalp, and she basically gives herself a head wound. Nothing super dangerous that needs stitches, but it bleeds. And then there's hair all over the floor that she cut, which I still don't understand the mental reasoning of why kids do that and then they get angry when they don't have hair when they did it themselves. But
They don't
again,
think things through. That it's kids are all about this moment. That's it.
yeah, they're very
They're
zen.
very, like, present and zen in the
Yeah.
most destructive
They
way.
don't know about consequences for their actions yet. And some people never grow into knowing about consequences. But the funny thing is that her kid cuts her off her own hair. It's all over the floor. She's starting to cry because she doesn't want to look like this before preschool, which I found a little unbelievable that a kid would do this, but I don't know. And then,
Well, it just depends. I feel like some 4-year-olds might have the self-awareness
you
to be
think?
like, "I don't wanna
Okay.
look silly," but I would
I
say it's more of a 5-year-old thing because
okay.
5-year-old is when my kid has first have kind of a sense of self and her outsides, you know what I'm saying? But it could be
Yeah.
developmentally that another kid at 4 would care
I
about what they
mean,
look like. It just
I still
depends.
don't care. I still don't care what I look like. So I
Well,
mean, there you
exactly,
go.
yeah.
I mean, anyway, so she cuts her, and then she's like, "Oh, mommy, blah blah blah, fix it." And of course, Finley's running around. She's late for her appointment with her literary agent that she's supposed to have brunch at this fancy place.
And the
And
dad is fixes everything with duct tape.
the dad fixes everything with duct tape. I think we know these dads. They're like the Adam Savage dads of the world, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
Mythbusters. So she's like, "Daddy fixes it with duct glue," and she's like, "Do you mean duct tape?" And blah blah blah. Anyway, she tapes the hair back on to her child's head, like almost like a mummy, like you do with a mummy with duct tape on the crown of her head. I'm assuming it's silver duct tape, not colored or anything. And then puts a beanie over it, so you
Yeah,
can't.
but it's gonna hurt so bad taking it off. This
No!
poor child.
I know. First of all, if you really want to do this and have it last, I say super glue it to the ends of the hair. So it's like
God.
basically
No, not to a
yeah.
child, Bonnie. I was like, maybe masking tape because masking tape
Okay.
is a little easier to get out, but you have to cut the duct tape
Okay,
off.
okay. This would be my anti-meme way to fix it. Always
Miss
have on
Piggle Wiggle,
there.
maybe.
This is how I would fix it. And granted,
Okay.
keep in mind, I don't have children of any kind at all. And I'm only around nieces and nephews and like grandkid type people, grandkid type people, the shorter ones. I'm only around them during the holidays or when my friends have kids or grandkids or whatever. So here's my fix. Always have on hand at least 6 child size wigs.
Yeah.
Always So the reason I say this is because I remember very distinctly in high school, my mom said I could never dye my hair a wacky color because I was in the punk scene and I was a goth, and I already had dark hair because I was Italian, so I already had black hair. But I did go through a brief punk phase, and I was like, "Oh, she didn't say I couldn't cut it." So my
Oh
friend came
no.
over and tried to give me that Cyndi Lauper type mohawk, where it's like off to the side, and I made it into a mohawk because it was still the same color. I just didn't. I just cut it into a mohawk. I did it the day before our family portraits, and I
Oh
come from
no.
a
What?
family, yeah, and I forgot we're doing family portraits, and I come from a family that likes to do like the white shirt with the khakis, like everyone's wearing the same outfit, and they're on the
Yeah,
stairs.
yeah.
It's that, the thing everyone makes fun of in memes. That's my family, and I remember my mom my dad just didn't talk to me, I think, for like a month. My brother was just like used to it because I was, the screw up of the family. And my and my mom bought like an Annette Funicello wig or something for me to wear in the family picture.
Can
And
you please? Is this on YouTube?
I don't know. I don't know if my mom kept it because she was so angry at me because I always ruin the family portraits. I've ruined them every year I was part of that family.
Oh
And I
wow.
continue to ruin them with my stepmom. She gets mad at me because I don't. I basically, it's like that Sesame Street. One of these things doesn't look like the other. It's like I clearly look like an exchange student visiting an American family. Like I don't look like I should be in that family. But I
Yeah.
just remember that picture. I remember that picture. Thank God it wasn't, a week before senior portraits or something, and I had to wear the same wig in the yearbook. It
Oh
was
my
just.
God.
It was like a beehive. It was
Do you
like
have
a
a picture of this? Because I want to see you in
somewhere.
a beehive. I feel like
Somewhere.
Bonnie.
It's
I hate to
hilarious.
say this, but I actually feel you'd look really cool.
I mean, I thought it was funny. My mom did not. It was the only portrait that we didn't have framed on the wall. And I just remember it. I'm sure it's a collector's item in our family.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. This is what I would do if I was Finley. I would have just had a lot of wigs around or baby toupees or I don't know, stuff like that.
A
So
baby
that's
toupee? Do they have baby toupees?
Oh, that's an SNL skit. That's Saturday Night Live skit where
Oh,
it's like,
okay.
"Does your
Okay. Okay.
bald baby feel insecure? Get him a toupee." And it was just like, tiny
Yeah, I
little
vaguely
Donald
remember that. I
Trump.
was like, I thought that was a joke sketch. Yeah, okay, good.
Well, I
'Cause
mean, here's the thing though. Most ghost sketches, most gag sketches or like comedy sketches on Saturday Night Live tend to come into reality eventually. Like remember the Taco Time ad where
I
it's like
hate
a
to say
taco.
this, but I just Googled baby toupee, and there are some things that you
Yeah,
can
see?
buy.
See?
I just linked one to the chat who is
Oh
listening
my
right
god.
now. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. It's knitted hair and rollers.
Oh my god, that with the glasses really sells it. Oh my god. So I mean, I guess if I was a mom, I always have these like creative ideas to solve problems. But here's the problem: I'm not a mom, and I feel like if I was frazzled, going through a horrible divorce, stuck
Yes.
on like not getting my book in on time because I've had to suffer deadline pushes like crazy all the time. I don't think I would be creatively inclined to buy a wig for my child, but
No.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't duct tape their hair because then you
No,
have
okay,
to
the duct taping, I feel like she did for comedic effect. I feel like there's no
right.
first of all, as a mom, I wouldn't do it because I can't deal with the consequences of having to
It's
deal
like
with that
having gum
later.
in your hair. How would you'd have to cut that out.
Also, if the teacher saw it, they report you for to child
Oh, yeah.
services. Like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not even a thing. Other than that, I really felt like it was so realistic how the mom was just frazzled all the time, trying to deal with her kids. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine being a single parent. Today, I had to move my whole schedule around to accommodate my kid being sick, and tomorrow probably true too. And I love her so much, but I don't have a life when I haven't had a life since my nanny stopped working,
Oh.
in May. So it's
Are you
been really
serious?
hard for me.
You're nanny free right now?
Yeah, but she moved. She's having a
You
better
want
life
me to
now.
come over and help?
Oh, no, I'm good because
I'll bring
I
wigs.
I've had the best summer, and it's just kind of like my
Okay.
workaholicism is like, "Oh, I should be working, but I should be the best mom I can." And then when somebody's like, "Hey, what have you been doing this summer? What have you been working on?" I'm like, "Well, I've been working on being the best mom I can." And then people don't give a crap.
No, that's like the most important job ever. Are you kidding? As
It
someone that's
is.
come from a childhood with not the best mom ever, I would have killed, literally murdered other children to become your child.
Yeah.
I would be
Well,
like
that's very sweet.
that new Orphan movie. I would be that girl. I would be like, you would be the Julia Stiles mom to me in that movie.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Like it's so much time. Like to be really present in your kid's life is so much time, and the world just eats us up just
Yeah.
with small things we got to do, but also the bigger work things. And yeah, it's just really tough. So I really did appreciate that sort of like desperation, even though some of it was a little broad,
Yeah.
especially early on in the book.
Yeah.
But I love that. I did love her relationship with Vero because I had a very similar relationship with my nanny.
Cool.
We were inseparable for many years. We were fly when I went to work, I would have to take my baby and I would take her with me. Um, and I know that's so total privilege being able to just even say that, but I just want to be really clear that I couldn't do what I do
Yeah.
without having had childcare during those years. And now, I'm definitely figuring it out and I'm neglecting my work more than anything, but which is okay because I'm happy doing that. But every person can't do that. I have the privilege of being able to take the summer a little more easy, and now I'll get
Yeah.
back to work.
I mean, it's also like I wouldn't even say necessarily it's about privilege because I had a lot of friends who had kids pretty young and but they had a strong and extensive family unit where they're like
Yes.
their grandmothers, their umas and their abuelitas and would help out. But then there's like a tons of aunties helping. Like I'm an auntie that would help. If I
Yeah.
had
Well, that's
anyone that lived near me, but all my family lives in the Midwest, but if any of them lived in San Francisco or LA, I would be like, yeah, I'll help out. And I think during the first tech crash, so that would have been 2000,
yeah.
2001. I could not get work at all. And so I became a very temporary nanny to one of my
Mm,
friend's sisters who had a huge house in Menlo Park. Like they were like living the tech queen life, right? And
mhm.
she's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a nanny." And I'm like, "Oh, I can be a nanny for a summer." And it was the funnest job ever. But man, did I teach them a lot of useless crap. Like I taught them Russian nursery rhymes that supposedly the Sparrow School used to teach the assassin girls. So it was
What?
like, yeah. So I was like, okay, here's that's how I was taught those because I had a Russian teacher that's like, "Oh yeah, this is like what they teach kids that are, gonna be spies or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I taught them that. I taught them every curse word in Spanish imaginable. I taught them a lot
Did
of crafts. Like there's a lot of crafts. So I taught them crafts, but like nothing, no math. I don't think
you
I even
Louise.
I
These
think we
kids had the best time of their life.
well, we did like flashcards, but like we didn't get into like calculus or algebra. I mean, they're kids. Like I'm not gonna go past my math knowledge because and my math knowledge ends at like high school. So
Wait,
uh,
I'm gonna back you up a little bit and ask you. So the sparrows, I thought that was an invention for the Black Widow movie. Is that a real thing?
it is, but it isn't. So it's pretty well documented if you look at history books of Russian spy culture, and this isn't just Russian. I would say East Germany, and the United States has this too. By the way, we're not peachy clean either. We take kids out of orphanages and train them. In fact, a lot of people in the CIA were people that basically failed their psych eval for the military. Um, yeah, because they need sociopaths. They need you to be a sniper and not give a shit. And most people give a shit about killing people. So I've just done a lot of
Wow.
let's just say I've done a lot of research. So even before Black Widow and Red Sparrow and all those movies, I was writing a comic book series about Girl Scouts that turn into assassins, but they only kill bad boyfriends or something. Like I was trying to put a silver lining on it. And like animal abusers. So they were like the Dexters of
Ugh.
it was like that. It was more like Hannah, maybe a little bit like that series. But the Russian nursery rhymes, it wasn't a trigger. It wasn't like the Manchurian Candidate or anything, but it was a way to desensitize kids about guns, which now that I'm saying this out loud, I feel slightly guilty for teaching this to young children. But it's it's a nursery rhyme that goes mucha mucha naskinie как вы поживаете посмотрите пистолет pak 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 muhinet. So it's fly fly on the wall. How are you doing today? I bought a new gun. Bang bang bang. No more fly. That's basically what it is.
Okay, that's very
Violence.
impressive.
You're like, why am I friends with Bonnie and why is she talking
No,
about
not at all. I'm just
so,
like, there's infinite layers to you, Bonnie.
I know,
You're
I
like a
mean,
crepe cake or something. It's
I
just
for me, like, being a nanny would be crossed with Pippi Longstocking, Wednesday Addams, and maybe some Auntie Mame thrown in there. So I did teach them some stuff, like, I taught them some basic self-defense moves. I mean, they're both girls, so I'm like, "Yeah, you need to know this." And then I taught
listen,
them
I think it's cool. Like, the weirder the kid, the better.
right?
That's my
And I mean, I
philosophy.
lasted a whole summer before the parents were like, "So, they were speaking Russian while they were watching Veggie Tales, so we think you need to stop teaching them Russian." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And it was a fun experiment for me because I always kind of toyed with the idea of being a teacher. I thought that would be a
Mhm.
fun job before I realized there's a lot of politics and you don't get paid well and blah
I
blah
think
blah.
you've probably gotten fired pretty fast, Bonnie.
I would have gotten fired real quick, because I would have been
Sorry.
like, "Hey, it's banned book week. We're gonna read all the banned books." Yeah, and my
Yep.
mom was a librarian in school. She knew about all that stuff. So, when I was reading this book, I was like, "Okay, if I was a frazzled mom, because I'm a frazzled, struggling author, I got that down pat. Like, I get that part of the book. But like, if I was a mom, how would you juggle being an accidental hitman or hitwoman and have 2 kids under the age of 6? Like, I
Well,
feel like
the author evidently was, like, at a Panera, or I
oh,
don't know if she was
the
at a
bands
Panera. I love
the
Panera, by the way,
the
that's my
bands
favorite
from
fast
there.
food.
I didn't know
But
you could get
she
banned
was
from a
there one
Panera.
day, like, just talking, I guess, to her editor, and they were like, wouldn't that be funny if people thought we were hip people right now?" That
Yeah.
was in the afterword, and just
Have you
that
ever
was
had that
the
happen?
German of the Hmm?
Have you ever had that happen where you're talking about your book, but you're vague and people think you're something else?
No, not at all. Have you has it happened to you?
Oh, yeah, all the time. So but
Well
I'm talking about hunter killer stories. But I was like, hunt to kill no one offered me $50,000 to kill anyone. I haven't had that offer.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there is a dilemma here. I know it's a comedy book. So the
Mhm.
point of this is that she goes to so after she duct tapes her kid's hair to the head, drops off the kids at her horrible ex-husband, and then she goes to this brunch that she's supposed to have with her fancy book editor from New York. They were supposed to have a fancy place, but she is an hour and a half late. So the book editors or the book agent's like, okay, just pick a place. And she picks Panera. It's not just Panera, it's the Panera that she's been banned from
I
because
love Panera. Yeah, I mean, because she basically attacked she
soup.
attacked her the woman who basically broke up her marriage and stuffed Play-Doh
Yeah.
in her car, and basically that broke it, so she's
She
in
poured soup over her head, which makes me wonder if it was the bread bowl, because that would have been more hilarious if the
oh,
bread
don't
bowl had
talk
been
about bread bowls with me. I have a bread bowl incident in my past that I just can't
what?
overcome.
Or did you what, did it explode? Are you okay? Oh,
No,
someone
it
doesn't
was
know what a
just it
bread
was
bowl is.
Mother's Day this year. I went to Ren Fair, and my
Okay.
friend Ryko came with me and the
Yeah.
kid, and he got a bread bowl, and then he went off to get a drink, and the bread bowl was empty, and I cleaned the table because there were people looming around who
Oh,
wanted to sit
yeah.
at the table that we had, and he was furious because I threw his bread bowl away because he wasn't finished, and I thought it was just a container, and he was like, "No, I wanted to eat the bread bowl,"
Yeah.
and I don't know, it got out of hand. People did fan art about the bread bowl. I have
Oh,
a
wow.
bordered, like, piece of art that a fan did of the art that
What?
somebody did. It's just it got deep.
Okay. Well, I mean, for those of you someone in chat didn't know what a bread bowl is, it's literally a bowl made of bread that you put soup in. That's what Panera does.
Yep.
And most a lot of places do that actually that have salads. You can do that. Tostada salad, where you get the giant tostada and they put the stuff in it, the nacho fillings in the tostada. You can eat the tostada. It's an edible bowl, basically.
Yeah.
But when you have it soggy, right? So, like, I don't know what your Panera choice of bread bowl soup is. Mine is
I would
always French
which one
onion.
do you get? French onion? I can't do French onion. I would definitely get a tomato, or maybe I would definitely get tomato in the bread bowl.
Will you
And
tell me
if
when
they
you
had an
turn color?
Assaggio cheese bread bowl, I would, like, be in
Okay.
heaven.
Okay. Yeah, it's like that. So basically, like when I lived in San Francisco and I had friends visiting, I'd always take them to the wharf and we get clam chowder and the bread bowl thing. That was
Yeah.
like the thing to do. So, but pouring hot Panera soup over someone's head, that could be
You could
dangerous.
kill you could actually it could be very dangerous. You could put an
That'd
eye
be
out.
very dangerous. You don't want to do that's like a prison move to like,
I mean, basically, we're not talking about the book a lot because it's a very quick read.
oh yeah,
Basically, she gets hired to be a hip woman. She's a mystery author, so she gets romance author. She gets intrigued by this offer, even though she's definitely not a hip person. She gets involved in it. Eventually, the guy dies. She has to solve the murder. She buries the body with her nanny, and she has to solve the murder so the Russian mob doesn't come after her. It sounds extraordinarily complicated, and it is, but it's very funny,
It is.
and I really enjoyed the book.
You know what? And there are parts of the book where I'm like, okay, this could totally happen. This could totally happen. And someone offering, and I thought about this. Like, I've been very poor. Not, I mean, I'm okay now. I'm not like, I don't have a. I mean, to be quite honest, I don't have a huge savings. At least I'm not doing paycheck to paycheck, but at least I don't have like a $50,000 Visa bill. But I was thinking about this. If I was her and someone overheard me talking to my agent about a murder mystery or even hunt a killer, because this happens all the time when I'm talking about hunt a killer stuff, when I'm saying what the latest game that I'm working on is, and I don't clarify it's a game.
Mhm.
Well, people over here, like, I think the last time a Lyft driver overheard me talking to my boss on the phone, and I think for a minute, he thought I was an assassin or something. And he's like,
Yeah.
"So are you a coroner? Or are you forensics?" I'm like, "Oh, no, no, it's all fiction." But I was wondering, like, if someone overheard me talking about it and thought I was a contract killer and put a note on my Panera, you know, food tray that said, a name, $50,000, and a phone number, would you call the number? Would you find out if maybe this person's worth killing? Would you just throw it out? Like, I would at least call the phone number because I wouldn't know initially what it was about. Like, our character didn't know it was about a hit. She just,
Mhm.
like, what is this about? But $50,000 isn't bad for a starter fee.
I mean, it isn't. Listen, I would never kill anybody unless they threaten my daughter,
Yeah,
and then I would kill them with no remorse at all. Like,
yeah.
there's I'm definitely a mom.
That's a free pass. Protecting your kids is a free pass.
Exactly, but, like, just killing people is not romantic to me, but the guy she really positioned it in a way where you were like, "Yeah, this guy needs to die," and then he didn't die by her hand. She doesn't actually kill anybody. Spoiler alert. She
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
actually kill anybody. It's really kind of awesome the way she pulls it off, and yet still her characters are clever. It's kinda like what I liked about it is that I like people who know stuff about something being able to use that knowledge, right? And this
Yeah.
is a person who is an author, and she knows a lot about murders and spying and cops because her sister's a cop. And so she actually was able to use knowledge that she wasn't using before in a
Mhm.
real life way. This is my fantasy with the apocalypse. I
Okay.
dream about being competent in woodworking and motorcycle repair
Uh-huh.
and foraging for potatoes. I dream about that having those skills and then being in a situation where I have to put them to use and like it's the perfect time for the perfect set of skills. I don't want an apocalypse to happen, but I like that fantasy of having obscure knowledge that suddenly becomes really really relevant in a surprising way. That's like a good hook for me. So
I
that's
think
why I
you're
like this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, you think about that, like, if you were in 4-H or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or campfire or whatever, you think about, oh, would any of these skills matter? Well, yeah. So, like, apocalypse happens. We have no electricity. We have no, uh, things that we're used to, like amenities of delivery people, that sort of thing. You have to know how to grow a garden. You have to know how to forage. So you have to know, like, which mushrooms can you eat, which ones should you not eat. It's stuff like that. So I kind of feel like when you read this book, you're like, okay, I know enough about true crime. Would I have made the same mistakes Finley did?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think about this a lot because I know how to do murder, get away with it, and I know how to bury a body and get away with it. But here's the thing: I am way squeamish. So even when I watch horror movies where people are getting stabbed to death, I still look away. And if I hurt myself and there's a lot of blood, I don't faint because I mean I am goth, so I mean blood can't make me do that. But I will get kind of squeamishy. You know what I mean? Like, so killing someone, depending on if you kill them from afar. That's why I think so many women resort to poison killings because you don't even have to be there when they die. You can
Yeah.
just poison something and walk away, and hopefully the right person takes the poison.
It's a lot cleaner for
It's a
sure.
lot cleaner, and also if you use a poison that's, plant-based as opposed to chemical-based, it doesn't stay in the system that long and yada, yada, yada. But
You know way too many details about this, Bonnie.
but here's the thing. I don't think I could stab someone to death because you have to be really up close to someone. Even if you have a stun gun, which is probably the route I would go, you still have to be right in front of them. Taser, not so much, but tasers are problematic because they can bounce off of things. And then guns are, like, unfortunately in this country, the default for most people. I don't like guns. I actually know how to shoot and I know how to clean guns because I come from the Midwest. They don't let you like grow up there without knowing that stuff, just for
Mhm.
personal safety for hunting. So I know all that, but I don't like guns. I find them to be really scary. Also, you're talking to a person who accidentally maced herself multiple times during college. So the last thing I need is a gun because I'm just gonna I'm gonna Don Knotts it. I'm gonna Barney Fife it. I'm gonna shoot.
No, no, don't even ever say that word. I hated him as a kid. I hated that
You hated
show
Don
on
Knotts?
Nick at Night. Yeah, I hated him. I hated his Adam's apple.
Oh, was it because he had bulgy eyes?
Yeah, it was his bulgy eyes and Adam's apple. It was just too many bulges.
Oh my god, so you couldn't even watch Three's Company when he was Mr.
No!
Oh, sorry.
But, I was a child. Anyway, well,
Anyway,
I'm very excited. I will actually, get this second book, and
yeah,
I'm excited to see where it goes. I even read the synopsis of that one and the 3rd one on Amazon, and hey, man, I might be diving back into this world again.
can I ask you a quick question about the book though? Because
Yep, yep.
I wanted to ask you about this since we both come from this background. What did you think about her portrayal as being an author? Because we were both authors. We both have dealt with deadlines and dealt with, writer's block and that sort of thing. Did you think it was pretty accurate?
Well, that's what I really like the most about because as a writer, like, it's just really hard after having a kid to be a writer. It's just you almost feel self-indulgent that you're taking time for yourself, and if you don't produce not words, it's like, "Why did you take this hour off? There's all these other things you can do."
Yeah,
And you're being selfish, and unless you're actually working so you don't really have that sort of wander around dream time that I had before my kid was here, and
yeah.
so I really did appreciate that, like, she's just kind of a mess, and this big life change, I felt like that was really real, and I liked the veracity of that, and I kind of felt like, "Oh, I'm seen, I can't get words down on the page either."
Yeah, I mean, I know we've canceled her for obvious reasons, but when you read about J.K. Rowling when she was first writing the Harry Potter
Oh,
book,
yeah, amazing.
I mean, she had two kids, that a baby and a toddler. She was going through a messy divorce, and the only time she could write sometimes was at night, going to cafes with her kids while they were asleep in the stroller and writing in a cafe whenever she
I
could get.
went to that cafe in Edinburgh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's really impressive, like, yeah, I hate what she's become, but I admire what she was, and
yeah.
that's
I
kind
mean,
of
the
the
fact
the
that I mean,
irony.
those of you who don't know, she hasn't been very good ally for the trans community.
I mean, the
So
opposite.
yeah, I wasn't trying to sugarcoat it. I
Yeah.
was trying to say it in a nice way, which you shouldn't say it. It's like, how do you describe a Nazi in a nice way, right? Like, you just
Ugh, it's just so
right.
disappointing. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
it's always
so
disappointing. It's always disappointing when
unnecessary, like,
oh,
she's not like I don't wanna go into it, but
I
I'm
don't
just
wanna go into it
it's
either. But
upsetting.
I will say that this book hit me hard with, the moment, and I've had this discussion so many fucking times with my family, is that they think your writing's a hobby.
Yeah,
So, I am a professional. I have 13 books under my belt, and
so
I still
impressive.
have family members. Like, I have best-selling books under my belt. I have family members who think it's just a fun side hobby. Like, they don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a writer full time, and they
Yeah.
understand journalist because you're working for a company. You tend to write for a newspaper or magazine, so it's but they know that that's a thing because they've seen, Mary Tyler Moore or something. Like, they've seen so many shows that take place in a newsroom. They know what that dynamic is. But and I guess COVID maybe has made this more understandable, but working from home, they think is you just watching soap operas all day and then
Yeah,
writing.
I mean, there is a big disconnect between having a creative job that is basically not stable and you're not working all the time, but you kind of are in the back of your
Yeah.
head and you have feast and famine. And it's definitely requires the kind of person to sign up for it. Some people might be really creative and can't sign up for that life. And I totally, that's totally valid. So when people see the way we live, they're like, well, you 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 could always go back to law school. I remember my dad telling me
Oh,
that for, like, the
no.
first 10 years I was here in LA because it was not easy for me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, my dad tried to pressure me into working for an advertising firm, and I'm like, I don't wanna do that. And I even as a journalist, I had a pretty long stretch of being a professional journalist and being able to make a living at that. You
mhm.
can't do that anymore, just
No,
because
no.
now people just hire people who can just write fast and do clickbait. There's not they don't I
Yeah.
don't think they even ask for your journalism degree or any kind of, creds, just clips and how many clicks can you get, and that's unfortunate, but the cool thing about being a writer is, A, you can do it at any age. So, like, when you could pull a Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote, fictional
Mhm.
character, but still I believe in her, that
I
as
love
soon
her.
as she retired as a school teacher, her nephew turned in one of her manuscripts, and then off she went to be, a mystery writer. And there's a lot of stories of people who don't even start becoming published authors until their 50s or 40s.
Yeah,
So,
that's the wonderful thing about writing, like,
yeah,
you have a story, you could tell it, and you're not judged by your outsides, you're judged by your
and
words,
to
and
be
that's what I
honest,
love about
I
it.
prefer to read books from older people because they've lived. I don't want to read Justin Bieber's memoir when he wrote it. Like, to be honest, he didn't write that. That was ghost written. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to read somebody's debut novel when they're 18. I think S.E. Hinton is the only one I cared about. And, that was a 16-year-old author writing Outsiders. But that's like pretty rare. Most people are in their 30s or 20s and 30s when they have their debut novel or something. And so I prefer older authors. But when I was reading this, and she has that discussion, so Finley has a discussion with her husband in the very first chapter, her ex-husband. And basically he's telling her, "Look, I can't." And by the way, she's paying him rent. So you would think that he would cut her some freaking slack.
Oh, I know, he's the
Like
worst.
he's the worst. And so he's like, I can't keep paying your bills for you. I can't give you, what do you say? I can't give you a couple more months on your mortgage. And she's like, "You're my landlord." Like,
I
just
know, I hate him so much.
cutting.
So what are you gonna do to your wife
And
and your
he
kids?
fired
You're gonna
the
kick him
nanny.
out?
And he
Oh,
fired
I
the
hate him
nanny
so
without telling
much.
her. So and then she's like, "Well, I need this nanny because I write full time." And he was like, "Maybe and I've had this sentence said to me multiple times from different family members and ex-boyfriends, "Maybe it's time for you to get a real job."
Ooh.
And when he said that, I was just like, "Oh, he better die in this book." I was like, "If he does not die in this book, he better die in the next book."
Sadly, he doesn't, and the next book is about at the very end of this book, we find out that someone's put a hit out on him,
Yeah,
so we're gonna see. I
yeah.
That's why I kinda wanna read the
Me
next one
too, me
because
too. I mean, I
yeah.
know it's probably he won't die, even though I want him to. But I mean, this book was, I would say, okay, overall, this book was a fun read. It's a good palate cleanser if you've been reading some really hardcore murder mystery stuff or watching a lot of hardcore murder mystery stuff. It's like a nice little, it reminded me of Dead Like Me, especially Vera and Finley's friendship was very Dead Like Me.
Mhm.
It's very like Good Girls. It's just, I don't know. I felt like it was a really cool and fun and unexpected. Though she does make a lot of mistakes. I will cut her some slack because in real life I would probably make a lot of mistakes like
Yeah,
she did.
also, I'd love to just read the second book,
I
like,
know.
I think second books and this author, this is her first, I guess, adult book, she's done YA before, so I'm really
Yeah,
excited to see where her voice goes and where the
me
story goes,
too.
so thank you for introducing it to me,
Yeah,
Bonnie.
no, I just thought it would be fun to have like a breezy, fun. I don't. It's funny because people say chick lit almost and it's an
No,
antiquated
I'd said
term.
it in a good way, it is
I
chick
always
lit,
say
but
it a good way,
it's fun,
and
it's
also
not just for chicks.
I'm an old lady who loves young adult books too. So like I read a lot of young adult. I read a lot of books that skew maybe towards 20 somethings.
Well, the average age of the CW viewer is now 58,
I saw
that's
your
what they
tweet
said,
on
and I was
that.
like, "What the hell?"
I saw your tweet on that. Here's the thing. I turned spoiler alert, I turned 50 in July. And I remember last Christmas when I was 49, I had more fabulous conversations with my nieces and nephews who were like in high school because we watched the same stuff. We watched the same YouTube stuff. Like they're all
Mhm.
over Bailey Sarian, the beauty tutorial girl who also does murder mystery shows on YouTube. But also, like, I know who Jeffree Star is. Like, I know TikTok inside and out. I know all the people that they watch on streaming. And I'm
Mhm.
watching all the CW stuff, and I'm watching all the young adult stuff on Netflix, and I read a hell of a lot of comics. So, like, I have more in common with them than I do with the actual adults my age. Because I'm not going to talk mortgages and politics and boring
No,
adult.
you don't
Ugh.
basically, it's you don't
Yeah,
really like to watch about your contemporaries.
I mean, it's boring. I mean, the only thing that's fun listening to old people talk about is their ailments because I do that. I do talk about my ailments a lot.
Oh, yeah, I could do a whole ailments
Oh,
podcast. It's
oh, and I love that. I love
right
listening
now
to
I'm
people.
sitting on a heating pad because I pulled my back out. I have a problem with my back, and I'm just like, "Okay." It's more
Yeah,
heating pad time for me. Woo!
I have ice packs on my body at various times throughout the day because I have like a trick knee. I call it my World War II knee, even though obviously it was not World War II. But like I have ailments and fun stuff to talk about. I have to go to the dentist this week. It's gonna be great.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
I think I have a cavity and I'm in denial. But here's the thing. I love books like this because I feel like it's a great reminder out there that there's fun, lighthearted stuff you can read and not just watch stuff on TV. I tried now. I think you've convinced me to do this all the way from our vaginal fantasy romance book club days is to read at least one fiction book a month because
Yep.
that way I still have an imagination, I still have a focus. Even with attention deficit disorder, I can still read a book. And so I don't know. I really like this book because it's lighthearted. So thank you for agreeing
No,
to have
thank
that be
you.
our book club pick because I think a lot of people would like this author. And again, if you like this kind of book, I highly recommend the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. The Final Girl series from Riley Sager is really good. Like I might pop into our chat and give some possibilities of other books that are kind of like this in
Yeah.
that genre. I think they call it cozy mystery. Uh,
Cozy. Well,
yeah.
next month's book is not cozy mystery. So I've been wanting to read a sci-fi book and one that I have wanted to read for quite a while. And I'm going to put it in the book club because it was voted the best. It got a Locus and a Nebula Award nominee for 2019. So
Wow.
many awards, and I'm very excited. And there is a sequel out, so I'm like, if I really like it, I can read the sequel. The book is called A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martine or Arcady Martine.
Okay.
And it is a really interesting looking book. It's about an ambassador and a murder. So it looks like a sci-fi murder mystery, but with a huge, like, world-changing plot around it. And I'm very excited. So that's what we'll be reading. And we will be convening again next month, the last Tuesday of the month. Let's see, what day would that be? It would be Tuesday the 27th, September
Cool.
27th.
Cool.
And so you got a month to read a big old fat, thick, luscious sci-fi epics. Okay?
Or
Well,
you could be like what the teenagers and the booktubers do and just get the audiobook and double the speed.
yeah, I do that sometimes too. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for thanks for listening, and goodbye. We'll see you next month.
Bye.